Imagine if you could play whatever kind of character that you wanted in your fantasy games. What if you weren't restricted to classes, and you could build whatever character you wanted from scratch? What if the magic felt simple, but dangerous to use? What if the gameplay was super easy and all the math was made small and simple to work through? I'm making a game, and if all that sounded good, stick around. Hey everyone, welcome to Dungeon Bits, and I made some videos talking about a system that I'm making a while ago, and while they weren't everyone's favourite videos, there were people that were very interested, so I wanted to tell you how that system has changed. Previously, the system was one where you had to roll under your stats. In the classic mold popular in Chaosium games, you'd have actions, rushed actions, and reactions, and I was running through the design and I was feeling like it was meeting my objectives of simplicity and fun, but I felt like I could do better. Since then, I've now improved Sanctum, and I'm super excited about what it's become. It focuses less on the class, ancestry, and D20 arrangement that we're all used to, and strives for something different. However, these differences aren't differences just for the sake of being different, because I've seen and heard a lot of wants and wishes for how people wanted their game of choice to work. Wants that I also wanted, so I want to give you these wants in this system. So let's talk about some of those wants. First of all, the dice mechanic is simple and fun, and there's no long addition, no lists of bonuses. Instead, all your dice get to come out and play as you roll different dice, depending on how good you are at something. There are 4 dice that you will mainly use in a given game: a d6, d8, d10, and d12. However, you could be expected to roll a d4 or a d20 if things go very good or very bad. And the basic mechanic is this: if you want to do anything in this game, you'll be rolling your die and trying to roll a 6 or higher. The dice that you'll be rolling range from a d6 to a d12, and if you're a novice at something, you'll be rolling a d6. So if you're frail and trying to leap across a chasm, you'll be rolling a d6 and trying to roll a 6. Good luck. But if you're trained at something, you'll roll a d8, expert d10, and master d12. So the better you are, the bigger the dice, and the better chance of success. This could be achieved by my previous design, however, it now accommodates for different levels of difficulty. There are occasions where the GM decides something is harder to do, and you have to roll a higher number, but more on that later. And that's it. So simple. The game runs on skill rolls where everything you roll will come from one of the 15 skills, including combat, where you roll one of the gear skills to determine whether or not you hit. How good you are is completely chosen by you in character creation. Also, to help depict, I threw together a draft character sheet. I could have just used plain paper, but I wanted to be able to see the finished product a bit clearer. It's not spectacular by any means, but it's helpful to visualize things. You can see that the list of skills are on the left, and those for combat are put in thicker boxes for ease of navigating. The skills are alphabetical, making it easy to read rather than just putting them into category boxes, but if we zoom out, it looks like there's a bunch of stuff on here, but if you look closely, the bottom contains the basic rules that you'll need to play the game, and the rest of the sheet is simple enough to contain all that you'll need for play, with it explaining how rolls work, how HP and dying works, and how leveling up works. And character creation is super simple and super fun. You can pick whatever abilities you want and combine them to create your very own unique character, or achieve a very specific vision. It's super simple and super customizable. Like, if you want to make a character who is incredibly good at history and magic, and they can kick butt at the Olympics, then you can do that. You're not pigeonholed into being a barbarian who hurts their ability to fight if they want to be smart or charismatic and strong. Just grab the sheet, put the big dice in the weapons and history or mystics, and there you go. But that's just skills. This game is a fantasy game with combat and danger, so what abilities do you get? When I was working on Sanctum before, I initially made classes that range from level 1 to level 12, and you could level them up and customize them akin to the common TTRPGs that we're all familiar with. But then I thought, no, I don't want to just repackage an existing game and give you that. I want more customization. I don't want classes or picking a class for just the first level ability or whatever. So now, Sanctum is one where there are no classes, and instead, you pick 3 features from a big old list that range from giving you martial powers, the ability to be versatile, more focused maybe, smarter, faster, and of course, getting access to magic. I recall seeing a comment somewhere of someone wishing that they could build whatever character they wanted instead of just following the straight road that is choosing a class, and I thought, yeah, Yeah, me too, because all the games that we have that have classes, they're typically very straight. You can only just pick that one class, and even the ones that say you can pick a class but you can customize them a lot, they typically still only allow you to customize it to this level. If you want to play an archetypal or archetypal warrior, thief, or mage, then you can. But with all these options, you can create some really cool, unique combos to accomplish your own unique vision. You can think of a character first and choose the features to match, instead of trying to awkwardly work a character concept around a predetermined class. Also, if you find it really fun to follow super optimized builds, I know you can do that in this system because I've created some. A guy that can instantly flip between massive melee damage to being a super tough tank and supportive defender. Or what about a dude that can focus all their power into shooting 6 magical bolts of damage at someone a turn, dealing very high damage? And then you'd pick, do I want more magical damage types? Do I want to deal more damage? Or do I want to do so while making no sound or movement and just using my mind? What builds will you create, I wonder? But for some, even while things have been simplified, all this choice can be very daunting, so I've made a big list of archetypes to choose from to tell you how to make an archetypal character, and it goes specific enough so there's a difference between assassin and thief, or a wizard and a war mage. Or here's a fun one: do you want to play as a guy with no martial ability at all, but they wear the best armor in the game while casting spells? Well, pick the Mage Tower archetype. And another fun thing to go along with this is how Ancestry works. There is a list of standard to stranger ancestries to choose from, and just like picking your features, you get to choose an ancestry feature from the chosen ancestry. You could choose that the dwarf that you play as spent his whole life underground and can see in the dark, or they lived amongst those on the surface and are instead a stubborn warrior who can roll again to try and hit in combat. And the best part? There are 4 features to choose from in each ancestry, so not every dwarf is the same thing. And you could choose to have all 4 of these ancestry features instead of just one of them and 3 from the other lists. So when everyone makes their character and looks around asking, what's everyone playing as? One person can say, I'm a fair archer with an animal companion who can speak to animals and hunt really well. You can turn to them and say, I'm playing a goblin. Oh cool, what features? Goblin. And you can do this with any ancestry. Like, one of them is basically a goo guy who can shape their body, be sticky, or disguise themselves. Or you could start the game as a literal mimic in its truest form by picking all 4. And there's so much more to this. Like, since there's no class saying you worship God now, things like religion are optional for any character, and you'll find that anytime there's something optional for a character, there's a bonus and a penalty associated with it. For example, your character can choose to pick up what's called an intrigue, and I love them. They let you gain a positive aspect, but they have a cost. For example, you could choose the experiment intrigue, which says that because you were experimented on, you have more health. But you take more damage when you take a certain damage type of your choice. Like, you're a big buff boy after the experiment, but your blood's composition has changed, and now you're more flammable, and you take more damage from flames. Or you could choose the weird intrigue, which says, because of your weird presence, you can choose an entity type, and these beings will be a little more calm around you, so they'll never ambush you, wanting to check if you're one of them or not. But it means that you and the GM have to choose another entity type to be more hostile towards you, so you can make it so that monsters are more calm around you, but people think you're a monster. And that's character creation. Everything from how smart, how charming, how fit, or how good you are with weapons and armor, and your super cool features are chosen by you. There are no restrictions, apart from how many you can have. But what about combat? Well, instead of the limits of 1 action, 1 rushed action, and 1 reaction, this game instead uses action points. You get 6 action points, and most actions cost 2 points to use. This means you could move with 2 points and use the other 4 to attack twice right at level 1. But there's more to this, because some items, features, or other sources will make the use of certain actions cheaper. Like, the dagger sometimes lets you recover 1 point after using it, meaning it only costed 1 point instead of 2. And reactions also consider how many points you have left. If you use them all on your turn, then you don't have any left and you can't take reactions. And a very useful reaction is the block reaction, which lets you reduce more incoming damage. So if you went all in and attacked, then you can't block. You'll need to wait till next turn to get your points back. So that's action points, but But what can you do with them? Well, pretty simple. You can move, which means that ranged attacks can be pretty good, since you can attack at range without having to move in and attack at melee. You could inspect your surroundings to look for traps, gauge tactics, or see any weaknesses in the enemy. You could do a super fun action called push, where you push enemies or allies depending on how many action points you use. And if they're an ally, you can push them and throw them double the distance because they're willing to be thrown across the battlefield. Push is so simple and fun, and it's one of my favorite things because you can move enemies and allies, yes, but you can also push enemies past allies, letting them attack them on the way past them to make for really cool combos in combat. And if the enemy hits a wall or object when they're pushed, you can deal damage with the push, and maybe push them through the wall or window that they hit, or if they hit another enemy, the two of them clash and they both take damage. Also, I mentioned the blocking reaction. Well, if your ally is blocked and they can't block anymore, you can heroically jump in front of the attack with the intercept reaction. And of course, you can attack. An attack includes a weapon, item, or something similar to deal damage. And if there's one thing that I'm never going to lose sleep over, it's that the weapon list is quite small compared to other games, because each weapon listed has a significantly different property to it. So weapons aren't just differently sized damage dice, the choice determines what weapon bonus you want in combat. For example, the rapier allows you to strike back when you are attacked with the riposte property. If you want your character to wield a certain kind of weapon, you can find that fantasy in one of the existing weapons and simply call it another weapon. Like, you want a katana? Well, grab the longsword and call it a katana. Boom. You don't need 3 different kinds of weapons to deal a d6 of damage and do the exact same thing for no reason. Oh, and also about that, I mentioned damage. Well, this system doesn't use damage dice as you might be used to. Instead, every weapon does a set amount of damage ranging from 1 to 3, but there is still a dice rolling aspect to damage, because the roll you make with whatever dice you roll is both the roll to hit and any extra damage that you deal. Rolling a 6 means that you hit, but rolling an 8 means you hit and deal +1 damage. And that is because in this game, whether it's combat or just rolling for anything, has degrees of success involved. If you roll a 6, that's an easy success, an 8 is medium, 10 is hard, and 12 is extreme. And oh look, the threshold for each one of these difficulties is the maximum result on the dice. Simple. So, when you consider any bonuses to damage, you check to see what you got. A 6 is a hit, but the higher numbers can range from +1 and a +3 to your damage. And this works outside of combat, where a higher degree of success can be a better success or more info is gathered. And the reason you really need to consider the bonus for your damage is due to armor. And armor isn't just the number you have to hit to roll, it's how much damage you reduce. You might be someone with heavy armor, meaning you can reduce damage by 3. And while it's rarer to see enemies with armor, it is possible, so you need to roll to see if you can beat their damage reduction. This all comes together to result in super quick combat, where you roll to hit and deal damage all in one go. No multiple dice being thrown and wasting time, just your dice roll and any properties your weapon does and any features you have. I want to make sure this system is customizable, polished, and fun, but if there's one thing I really wanted to make sure I got right, it's the magic. And yes, we all love our martial boys, but magic is a key component in fantasy, and because of this, I really wanted the magic to suit the sort of game I want to make. In Sanctum, magic isn't this consequence-free superpower. If you want to throw fire from your hands, while the warrior has a simple sword, you better be ready to get burnt yourself. I wanted magic to feel arcane and dangerous instead of just formulaic. And if you want magic, you can choose whether you want to have lots of magic or focus on a type of magic and be more powerful with it. Quality or quantity. When I first started, I really wanted to have a dynamic spell system where you built your spells from scratch, but I was starting to see how complex and time consuming it would be, but I didn't want to have another spell list game. I wanted spells to be unique and to try and execute a specific kind of fantasy. When you get a spell, it comes in 4 similar flavors all in one, and when you cast it, you can choose, do I want this to be the less powerful and more safe version, or the more powerful and risky version? Magic involves a risk and reward. Each spell can be casted as an easy, medium, hard, or extreme version, and you have to roll to see if you can get either a 6, 8, 10, or 12 to cast it without a hitch. A simple example is damage. You want to throw a bolt of fire? Well, you can do so with an easy casting, try to roll a 6 and deal 2 damage. But if you make it a medium casting, it'll be 3. And an extreme casting? That's 5 damage. And there's more to this, like casting a higher difficulty spell costs more action points also, but more importantly, failing the roll still casts the spell, but it means that you take damage from doing so. And this means those that can cast spells can do so without slots or mana or whatever you use to no end. Well, if you fail to cast, you take damage, so the end in question is the end of you. Nice and simple, nice and deadly. But then, a different flavour of fun begins when you decide, do I want more spells when I level up, or do I want to pick features that can modify those spells in pretty fun and sometimes potent ways? Like, you want to cast an illusion. Cool, well you could do so normally, or how about a feature that lets you create a beautiful illusion that dazzles your enemies when they see it, or a disguise on yourself that can be twisted to terrify all that look at it. And due to the way that you can modify the spells you have, the actual spell list in the game will probably be around 20 to 30 spells, but you can customize how you cast them to build the character however you want. Are you the illusion guy, or are you the terrifying illusion guy? And I really could go on and on. I just get all giddy when I look at what I've made, because in some areas of it, I feel like I've really made something completely new. And yes, there may be similarities to certain things here or there, like this isn't the only game to use dice other than a d20 for your actions, but I've never seen all of what I've made be combined to work the way it does in any other game. And if you want to hear more about my system where you can play any sort of character that you want, I could go on and on forever. I could talk about the specific features, the builds you could create, more on intrigues, the spells, the ancestries, what you could do if you worship a god, the equipment and the importance of what you bring with you, the magic items, the lore. Just let me know. And just to get something out the way, in the pursuit to create, you have those that like what you make and those that don't. But the saddest thing to hear is people accusing you that what you've made is already a thing. For example, XP to level 3 made a Fallout system, and he made a sentiment in a video that I want to repeat. Yes, games exist, there are lots of them, but if you point out that a concept is already present in an existing game, that doesn't matter. And why doesn't it matter? Well, as an example, Jacob brings up that in his design, people would compare it to GURPS, and I understand because I myself have received comments of people saying, if you play GURPS, you never need to play another system. That just isn't true, because you could play a unit of toy soldiers fighting off flying monkeys in Vietnam, or a wizard who's fighting off an invasion of robotic Karens. But either way, both games and every game you play is gonna feel like you're playing GURPS. I got a lot of responses on a TikTok that I made talking about how I thought that my magic system for Sanctum was going to work previously, and so many people brought up Ars Magica, which has a dynamic spell system. The responses would be like, someone's not played Ars Magica or play games other than D&D. Well, to address every single one of those comments, have you played Ars Magica before? Because I tell you what, you could never pick up Ars Magica's magic system and put it in a game that could ever consider itself as a tactical game. What I wanted was to combine a dynamic spell system with tactical combat. And that isn't what Ars Magica is. You just heard me talking about the concept of a dynamic spell system and said, well, you might as well stop because another game already beat it to the punch. But no. No, it didn't, or at least Ars Magica didn't. That spell system fits that system. Not my system, not D&D, not Pathfinder. It is very easy for two systems to have very similar systems of magic, because, let's face it, there's pretty much only two ways of doing it. Rigid, listed and tactical spells, or a dynamic and free-form, but not in any way tactical or fair, dynamic spell system. If you can't grasp the concept, that creators will want to take the ideas that they like, take the ones that they made up. Some might be similar, some might be borrowed, but take that thing and put it into a product that is a standalone product for people to enjoy, then the simplest of life's troubles will be very Herculean for you, my friend. Also, this might be something that I've noticed, but I guess no one else has noticed or cared or made it vocal, but it's crazy how many people will compare this system to this system to this system, but there are so many OSR clone games that come out and get loads of attention and loads of love because they like OSR stuff, even though there are so many out there and they're already great, but no, that doesn't get the whole "this game already exists" treatment. Jacob can make a Fallout system without having to apologise for existing next to GURPS, because those two games are completely different. And I can make Sanctum and make it feel like you're playing Sanctum. Thank you for watching. I'm Ellis, and if you like this video, click the one on screen to see more from me. I hope you'll stick around and support me, the videos I make, and any design that I make. I love you all, and I'll see you next Saturday.